I'm here with my two colleagues, Nora McFarland from our software development team and Niall O'Connell from our cyber and information security team. And I'm a director on the technology team here in Cpl. We're hoping today to give you a real overview of the technology market here in Ireland, how it, I suppose, ended in 2021 and what we have to look forward to in 2022. To give you some, I suppose, stats on the market, we're really lucky in Ireland to have such a vibrant technology sector. We produce over 35 billion euro in exports every year from the technology sector. We've over 37,000 people working in the tech sector, with that number growing year on year by 18 to 20,000 new jobs, according to the Irish government. So it's a really vibrant, buoyant sector. We're looking at incredible growth over the next 5 years. A recent webinar that we're all on recently with the National Recruitment Federation and LinkedIn was saying that in the technology sector alone, globally, there's going to be 135 million new jobs created in the next 5 years. It's a huge market and a really vibrant, buoyant sector, which Ireland plays a huge role in globally. So we want to give you that overview in the next few minutes from our discussion with Niall and Nora, who are both experts in their fields. So firstly, I suppose, just transitioning into the chat, Nora, I suppose we want to look at why is Ireland so attractive to people working in the tech sector? I think you've obviously made that move across from North America, so it's a good question to kick off with.
Thanks, Robin. There are a number of reasons, I think, why Ireland is especially appealing for people internationally, especially within the tech sector. And myself, I moved here from the United States about 15 years ago, never looked back. And one of the first things I noticed when I came here was how much better the working life was. For me, it was immediately apparent, and it was very profound. It is a much better work-life balance in Ireland than in the United States, and indeed in other countries that I have worked in. And this was found also in a 2021 Expat Insider survey, where Ireland came in 8th for overall out of the entire world in the workplace. And in fact, it came in 1st place worldwide in career prospects and satisfaction. So that's a key reason, but even more noticeable within the tech sector, because it's a tech hub. Dublin has become a tech hotspot. Starting in the 90s, when the tech companies started moving into Ireland to set up their international headquarters or their EU headquarters. It's just brought in a ton of talent and a ton of funding. So, Google, they have their headquarters here. Dell, they've got their headquarters here. IBM, Salesforce. And that also sparked funding domestically to put more money into the tech sector, and in turn created startups, an atmosphere that really encourages and brings tech. And so whether somebody is interested in working in a startup or an established blue chip company, those opportunities are here, and the salaries are very high. In fact, the salaries in Ireland are 3rd highest on all of the European Union. And so for a number of factors, it's very, very appealing.
Great, thanks, Nora. I think, Niall, can you talk about the other side? Nora mentioned the big tech, global names. The other side of Ireland, I suppose, is the startup community. Can you give us a bit of an overview of that and what opportunities are in that sector for people?
Yeah, exactly, Robin. So as Nora rightly mentioned, Ireland it's obviously home to many of the world's leading tech companies, but as well as that, we have a really thriving startup scene. So for me in the cybersecurity space, and I think across tech as a whole, we've really worked with numerous PE and VC backed startups over the last couple of years in growing out the security and overall IT functions. So I think, whether you're a candidate who has a desire to maybe work with one of the bigger, more established tech companies, or if you're someone that wants to work with a smaller startup, setting out on their journey, there really is something for everyone here. So, as a tech candidate, I think you have a great choice in Ireland with regards to the type of company and the type of projects that you actually wish to work on.
Brilliant. Thanks, Niall, for that. Yeah, I think, as you both say, I think there's something here for everyone in Ireland, whether you want that, big global name in tech, or whether you want that, quick growing startup company. Ireland has it all. We're so lucky here to have that, I suppose, whole ecosystem for people to really forge their careers in technology in different areas, depending on what their, I suppose, their chosen skill set, and also what their chosen career path is. The other thing we wanted to, I suppose, share with people is more about CPL. So CPL was set up in 1989 as a technology recruitment firm. So really, going back right to our roots, when Anne Harity set the company up in 1989, it was a technology recruitment firm foremost when it was set up. So I think that longevity has given a lot of, I suppose, really appealing factors for why companies want to work with CPL and also why candidates want to work with CPL. So I want to kind of explore that a bit more with Niall and Nora. So Niall, if you were a candidate, why would you engage with CPL?
I suppose there's a few things that immediately jump out, Robin. Like you said, the fact that we are over 30 years in business and the really lasting client relationships that we've built from that. The international reach we possess through having offices throughout Europe and the US. And another one will be, the investment in our own technology. So some of the AI platforms that we have in place that really ensures that we can offer, I suppose, a best-in-class service to our clients and candidates. But for me, Robin, the big thing is the people. We've got specialist consultants working in specific verticals who genuinely are very knowledgeable and go above and beyond to deliver a best-in-class service. So as you're aware, we won a big piece of business over the summer with a global tech firm to fill almost 100 jobs by October. So that was across dev, infrastructure, security, PMO. So it was a big task to meet, and we met that deadline through what I think is just the sheer commitment and level of service that our consultants are willing to offer. So I think, look, in a nutshell, you can have the best tools and the best technology in place, but if you don't have the right consultants with the right attitude and knowledge, then it's not going to work. And I think that's definitely something that we do have in place.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Niall. I think you're right. I think it's that breadth of clients that we have for both candidates, and then the quality of our recruitment consultants for clients as well is what really, I suppose, makes us stand apart. Nora, from your side, coming into CPL, what's your thoughts on, I suppose, why candidates out there listening should engage with CPL and our team in the technology sector?
Well, I think the first thing to keep in mind is just the stats of working with recruiters, and especially big recruiters. You're 7 times more likely to get a job through a recruiter than you are through a job board. And 90% of companies work with recruiters, and CPL is a huge company, so we work with most of them. And we're kind of the middleman. We're the guy in your corner when you're getting a job hunt. So the first thing I always ask a candidate is, what do you want? And because you know better than I do, and you know better than the job board does, what's right for you. So you might tell me, getting the highest salary is the most important. And that's great. And that helps me direct where you might be best suited for. So I will tell you about the jobs, and I'll put your CV out to jobs that offer you that. Whereas you wouldn't necessarily know that with a job board, and you wouldn't necessarily know that without somebody who really had their pulse on the tech economy. And that's what a specialist do, is we know all the companies, we know what's different about them, we know the specific team you'd be working on. So if you say, I need a great work-life balance, that's great. I know who those companies are too. And so it goes far beyond just directing people to the right companies. And at that point, we'll help you with your CV. We'll make it as appealing as possible. We will help you prep for the interview. And we will make sure that you are as presentable as possible, and that you are answering the questions the right way. That you're fully aware of the job and what the job's looking for, so you know what questions to ask them as well. Then even beyond that, if you get offered the job, we'll help you negotiate. We know what the fair rate is. We know what your skill set is worth. We probably know better than you do what your skill set is worth. We know what the companies are paying. So we'll help you get the most favorable conditions. And then even after that, if you need help resigning, because that can be kind of awkward and tough sometimes, is telling your boss that you no longer work there. And we will help you with that too. And so we do all of that. And we don't charge a dime for our service. It's I think most people know, recruiters get paid on commission. So it's in my best interest to get you a job you love, and to get a client the right staff for them. And so we really are your go-to. And again, with CPL, everything Niall said is 100% true. I work with some of the most talented and dedicated recruiters I've ever met in this company. And as specialists in our field, we know what's out there. We know what you're going to be good for. and we know how to get your CV in front of a hiring director.
Brilliant. Thanks, Nora and Niall. I think, yeah, it's a real insight into, as you say, Nora, why people should engage with recruitment consultants here in CPL. I think even if you're not looking to change your job immediately, but to get an update on what's happening in the market, what the opportunities are out there. So when you do think of moving in 6 months' time, 9 months' time, you're really well placed and really up to speed with what's happening in the market. And you want to talk with, the best and the people who know that market and their specialist area inside out. So I think that's one of the real messages to give to people listening today is that, yes, we are probably the biggest recruitment company in Ireland, but we are a specialist in our niche areas. So within technology, we've got a big technology team, but we then have that team broken down into specialist, smaller teams. And that's what I think really separates us from a lot of the competition out there. But yeah, thanks, Niall and Nora, for that insight. I think transitioning into, I suppose, the whole things we spoke about at the very start, like the market is booming, everyone's talking about this global war on talent. For candidates listening, I think it's a really good market, obviously, for candidates at the moment. Can you, I suppose, Nora, give a bit of an insight for candidates listening about what's happened over the last 18 months with COVID and how that's impacted what clients are offering candidates now in the market?
The results were a little bit different than everybody had expected. At the beginning of COVID, there was a recession anticipated. And so a lot of employers were cutting back on their workforce. They weren't hiring. They were, in fact, even laying some people off. And since that the recession hasn't really materialized, in fact, the opposite has happened. It's become very buoyant and it's booming. And there's been a lot of hiring going on in the past year. The past year was incredibly busy. And there were recruitment agencies themselves increased their staff by 700%. So it's been a huge year of growth. And the anticipation is that 2022 is going to be even more noticeable. Huge reason is because there's so many jobs right now. Jobs are opening very quickly. And there's actually a recent study saying that by 2030, or that, sorry, the anticipation is that 85% of jobs in 2030 haven't even been invented yet. And so as more people are becoming more skilled, and especially more skilled in niche areas, and they're highly employable. So that's the trend we're seeing, is that there are a lot of jobs, there are more jobs every day, and there are more interesting jobs with modern technology, really cool stuff going on in the Irish market happening in 2022.
Great, thanks, Nora. And Niall, from the whole kind of benefits point of view and salaries, how do you see that, I suppose, moving into 2022, and how has it kind of ended in 2021 for candidates listening?
Yeah, very, very competitive, Robin. So, these candidates in the tech industry are in such high demand at the moment. So naturally we have seen an increase in the salaries on offer. With that, we've also seen more and more companies offering the like of stock options, sign-on fees and things like that. So increased salaries is definitely something we've seen. Having said that, since COVID hit, remote working, work-life balance has become just as big a draw for a lot of candidates. So with that, again, we've seen organizations adapt and willing to look, I suppose, outside of what their typical location boundaries would have been. So alongside those really competitive salaries that I mentioned, we actually now have a really greater talent pool for companies, and again, more opportunity for candidates. So it's a win-win situation, I think, and definitely doesn't show any signs of slowing down going into 2022 anyway.
Brilliant, thanks, Niall and Nora. Yeah, I think it's really fascinating. One of the big things candidates obviously always want to know is, what's happening in the market. Are salaries increasing? What percentage are salaries increasing by year on year? So I think, as you say, Niall, people have looked for kind of different things in yes, everyone wants to increase their salary, but I think maybe not by the same percentages in previous years. That they want more flexibility, they want to be interested more in new technologies, they want, as Nora said, to be really focused on what's down the line, what's the career progression, what's the training for the next wave of new technologies. So all these things, I think, are becoming really important for candidates when they assess jobs. So I think for clients, it's all about positioning your job versus the competition in the market at the moment. Hi everyone, hope you enjoyed the session this morning. Really just want to, I suppose, hear your questions and answer as many of them as we can. Myself, Nora and Niall are here to really to help you and answer those live questions. I think some of you will have already been on our website over the last couple of months. We've released the salary survey, which gives a lot of detailed information around, you know, the area you work in, salaries, job kind of trends and benefits. So really advise you all to log on to the Cpl website and download that salary survey. You can get a lot of blogs and other articles that are relevant to, you know, the whole job searching area as well. But let's kick off with the first question. So the first question that came in was, can you tell us in the first 3 months of the year, what are the hottest areas and topics that are in most demand? So I'll give a quick overview and then I'll pass it on to the specialists, Niall and Nora. So I think, yeah, the first 3 months, really it's continued on from the end of last year. You know, if we look at kind of our numbers over the 3 months, I think January was kind of slow. I suppose started off slow just with a big a lag from Christmas, but the number of vacancies kept coming in. It was slow just in regards to the clients, I think, getting back and doing interviews and everything. But so if we look at our teams, you know, every specialist area from PMO to the whole software development side to infrastructure, all have had a really good flow of jobs coming in. So I think that area right across, as that growth has kept going from last year. So Niall, from your side on the kind of infra and cyber side, how's the first 3 months been for you?
Yeah, busy to put it mildly, Robin. As you said, like across tech as a whole has been massively busy. But I suppose from my perspective in the security space, the market's booming. So much hiring going on. I think there probably is still a slight candidate shortage in that space within Ireland. So. And probably again back to what you said about January being slightly quieter. I think since January through February, March, and with restrictions kind of lifting, it's been a lot easier to attract candidates from overseas, which we've seen in security space certainly as a massive help.
Great. And Nora, you're obviously in the area that's in the hottest demand in Ireland, the whole software development side. How's the first 3 months been for you and the team?
Same, very busy. It just seems to keep getting busier. Lots of startups are hiring right now, lots of established companies as well. I'm seeing a lot of demand for solution architects, front end and back end engineers, cloud engineers. Really kind of all the biggest technologies are all in high demand. So it is a very good time to change jobs if you're thinking.
Okay, good. Yeah, and a great time for graduates, I think, to be looking at the jobs market at the moment as they hopefully, you know, come to the end of their academic year this year, heading looking for jobs in September, October. So no, I think it's all good. Do we have the first question, Gilvan, coming in? I think we do. Yeah. Okay, first question. I'm about to graduate as a mature student in the next few weeks, and cybersecurity is a space I'd be keen to explore. However, what would be the most beneficial in terms of job seeking and progression? Postgrads in cybersecurity or tech certification while attempting to work in the area? I'll pass that over to you, Niall. So,
yeah, sorry, I'm just having a read of it here. It's a good question. It's a good question. Like I think the way the market is, that's from Laura. I think is it the way the market is, Laura? Like there's a place for everyone in the marketplace. You know, whether you do decide to go down that route of completing the postgraduate firstly, or you know, the tech certification. I think it comes down to individual circumstances. Like, for example, if you're to, you know, secure a position in a firm firstly, a lot of those guys when you start would be willing to put you through the certifications. So I suppose like what we would typically see is most candidates completing their postgraduate, then moving into the workplace and actually completing the majority of those certifications through their actual employer.
Yeah, I was going to say the same. I think companies are more and more financing further studies. But maybe if you haven't any, I suppose, discipline or speciality in cybersecurity, maybe you'd be better doing the postgrad specifically in cybersecurity and then looking for a job would be my advice. But I think it is hard if you have nothing in cybersecurity looking for a job in that space. So maybe get the postgrad in it, and then they will give you, they will finance further certifications and studies for you. Hope that answered, Laura. But reach out to myself and Niall, Laura, if that doesn't cover. We're more than willing to talk to you offline. Next question. Salary is important, but there's so much more than that. Quality of life, opportunities to make a new life. Thank you for the tips, really helpful. Okay, thank you for that. Yeah, and I think we're seeing that more and more now. I think it is all about the company you're joining, the benefits, the flexibility. I think COVID has been the best experiment pushed on the whole world from a workplace point of view. So we've seen companies be a lot more flexible, and that, I suppose, enables candidates not just to focus in on the salary. There's a lot of other benefits that are equally as important. So thanks for that. Next question, please, Gilvan. Hi, Cpl team. Thanks for the webinar. I'd like to chat to a consultant regarding breaking into the tech sector. I've had web development training and invested over €4,000 in bootcamp training just to be told that I don't have 2 years industry experience. How do we navigate that career changing stopper? I think, yeah, it's a tough one. I'll try and answer it and then see if Nora and Niall can kind of put a bit more flavor on it. I think breaking into any sector is hard, I think. But the tech sector at the moment is severely candidate short. So I think it's trying to find an area that it could be in kind of the business analyst area or some kind of an analyst role where they're not looking for specific technology expertise, and you can get in the door, maybe in QA and test, that kind of area where you can get in at entry level, start developing your skill set. Maybe, as we said in the answering the question before, get the company to finance you doing another cert or a bit of study, and then you can kind of move I suppose, to another more specific technical area. So I know it's a bit of a fluffy answer, but it's a hard one unless we know kind of your background. But I think you get in the door, analyst, test maybe role, and then start developing into DevOps. Then that goes into software engineering and so on. But Nora and Niall, anything from your side in regard to answering that for someone trying to get into the tech sector?
Yeah,
I hear this question a lot, and I think, Robin, what you said is absolutely really the best you can do is get your foot in the door. A lot of people do that by internships or an analyst role, a consultant role, but yeah, somewhere where you can get job experience it's the same for really every graduate.
Yeah, I'd just back that up, I suppose, in terms of, you would see a lot of people going in at that, like you said, Robin, maybe a BA or, QA testing kind of space. And then maybe, if the long-term goals are to branch off into, say, development and stuff, then do that in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I think internships is sometimes a good foot in the door, as you said as well. Okay, next one. Hello, I'm currently a master's student in business analytics and be finishing my course very soon. 4 years of industry experience. How can CPL help me find the right job, and what would be an ideal time to apply? So if you have 4 years industry experience in the tech sector and you're doing a BA and business analytics on top of that, I think, I don't think you'll struggle to get work. As we've said, the job market is booming. That business analytics would kind of fall into our data space. So we have a specific data team that would look at all kind of areas within that space. There's no particular right time or right. I think it's a role that suits you, a company that suits you, whether you go into a larger firm or a smaller one. It goes down to your experience in the sectors you've worked in. But I think send in your CV to us, and someone from our specialist kind of data team who look at all data and BA roles will be able to help you in that, or BI roles, I should say. Next one, Graham Burns. Hi folks, well done, Joel. In terms of salaries and benefits, are you seeing convergence between Dublin and regional salaries? In the last year or two, as demand increased for talent. That's from Graham, actually works in CPL. So yeah, Graham, I think we are seeing, with the opening up, I suppose, of One Ireland, really, a lot more remote work. There is not as much of a discrepancy between salaries in Dublin compared to the regions. It just depends on the role. If people are still required to go back into the office, a day, 2 days a week, I think there's probably a higher salary than if someone's fully remote and they're allowed to be based, way outside of Dublin, and they don't need to commute to the office. But I'd say, you're probably looking in the past, I'd say the differences were, you're looking at a salary that's probably 25% lower outside of Dublin. But I think with the opening up of the market, there's probably not as much of a discrepancy. Niall and Nora, have you seen that kind of salary difference between Dublin and the rest of Ireland?
I think in my space anyway, Robin, in the security space, there is a lot of our clients that have gone down a kind of fully remote model. With that, I've definitely seen a leveling off in terms of that, the gap between, I suppose, regional salaries and Dublin salaries. Obviously a lot of people working for Dublin-based companies in regional locations and so on. So there definitely has been a leveling off. But I suppose just like you said as well, like if if there is an element of on-site work, like there can be, I suppose, a difference for the likes of those clients that we'd be working with.
Nora, anything on your side from salaries Dublin versus outside of Dublin?
I'm just seeing the same thing, especially with hybrid or even some roles being almost entirely remote, with only periodically going into the office. It doesn't matter as much where somebody lives. So, regardless of where the company is based, they're competing for the same talent now.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Graham. Next one from Connor. A lot of entry-level tech roles are advertised asking for 3+ years experience. Is this a hard requirement? How can fresh graduates be considered for these roles? Yeah, I think that's obviously, if it's looking for 3 years experience, it's not an entry level. It's kind of a bit of a or wrong advertising. But I hear I think it's trying to get in, as we said earlier, an internship, or if there's a graduate program. I think if roles are looking for that 3 years experience, it's obviously not a role that someone fresh out of college, unless you've previous experience that's relevant, can apply for it. So I think you're looking then at graduate programs, or I think an internship to get your foot in the door. Next question. Graduate from a higher diploma of IT business analytics. However, my background is mechanical engineering. What advice would you give me in regard to applying for a job in IT? I think if you look at where IT jobs are, so we have firms who are engineering firms who have IT divisions. So I think that would build on your previous experiences in mechanical engineering. So if you look at some of the big firms across Ireland, the likes of Mercury and all these big engineering firms who have global operations, they all have big IT divisions. Giving them a nice plug for Mercury there, but all those companies would have taken on people. They'd have business analytics teams, they'd have IT divisions. So I try and apply to look at those companies, make a list and start applying to them, or talk to a recruitment company that can help you in that regard. Because you definitely should use and bolt on that experience you had before in mechanical engineering. I think here we've had also, just to, I suppose, address, we've had a number of questions just in regard to visas. Our company is sponsoring people, what type of visa I need to secure a job. So I think for a lot of people who come from overseas, study here in Ireland, you get a visa which allows you to stay in Ireland for 2 years. The companies will take you on in regard to that visa, but it's not right across the board. Every company has different requirements and different rules in regard to visas. Some companies will only take stamp 4, but I think we're seeing more and more companies take stamp 1Gs and stamp 1 visas. But they will look and see what's the end date on that visa. If you only have 3 or 4 months left, they're probably less likely to take you on. If you've a year and a half left, that might be it's an easier hire for the company. So I think it's on a case-by-case basis. There are companies that will offer sponsorship, but they don't use recruitment agencies. So you'll see some of the bigger companies that do that directly themselves. But reach out to anyone on our team. More than help you with that advice we have. We try ourselves to try and help people get sponsored. But it just depends on what our companies and our candidates or our clients want. I think that's it, Gilman. Is it on the questions? Thanks everyone for joining. Really, just to sum up again, please log on to CPL website. There's full information there on our salary guide, which will really help you. And if you sign up to that, you get constant articles and blogs which help you. Everything from interviewing tips, what you should do before an interview, how you should approach the market. But most of all, please reach out to us, myself, Robin, Craig, Nora, McFarland, or Niall, or any of the team, and we can help you and give you advice in your search for a new role. It's a great time to be looking. Tech is the sector to be in. So good luck to you all, and all the best for the rest of the year.